Hi everyone! Welcome back to Window Chats with Robyn, the Instagram Live podcast where I sit by my window and chat with very interesting people. Today we have Romy Weltman. I'm very excited to chat with her because, well, I met her in an on-camera acting class, and then it turns out that she and I have a lot of connections from other areas, characters including one of them, so that's exciting. And hopefully the live will work. There's always that fear when it doesn't work, but she's here, so I have faith. Hi, Romy. I'm going to invite you in. Oh my gosh, this is exciting. I think it's going to work. I have faith. I'm feeling it's sunny outside, good vibes. We're going to make the connection. Maybe. This is very dramatic. If you've never seen an Instagram live before, this is the most terrifying part. But I have faith. I'm very religious every time. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I don't know. Oh, it worked. Oh my God, I was terrified. Okay. I didn't hide it well. Acting. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited.
So exciting.
So do you like your framing? Are you okay with your lighting?
Is it good for you?
I think you look great.
Oh, I think you look great. If it's good for you, it's good for me.
Oh, this is so easy to work with you. This is why you're booking, because you're very easy to work with.
Oh, thank you. I try.
So how's it going? How's it going?
It's good, thank you. Just it's an early morning for me. This is early for me in the summer.
Thank you for waking up. I do appreciate it.
Oh, no, it is my pleasure. Thank you for getting me out of bed before 12 o'clock.
So look, your parents and I discussed. We said Romy is sleeping in too much. So we have to fix this. Obviously, we'll do an Instagram live. That's the solution. Done.
I can see you and my parents having that discussion. No doubt about it in my mind. They don't like that I sleep in, but that's what happens when you live with a 21-year-old.
To be 21, classic. I never know when, because it's so interesting. You say you're 21, but it's like, what's your acting age versus the roles you book? I don't know. I still think you're a teenager based on the roles I've seen you in. I go, of course, she's a high schooler. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely play very young still. I play, sometimes 15 could be a stretch, but I could do like 15 to 18, 19. When I get auditions for my own age, I get really excited, but also I'm like, this is a long shot, isn't it?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really funny. I'll be like, classic, because I live with my parents. I'll walk out of my room. My mom will be like, how old are you today? And I'll be like, 20. And she's like, I would go put on a bit more makeup. And I'm like, but I am 20. I'm 21. Like, what do you mean?
That's so funny. See, that's so interesting because, like, I was a child actor growing up, but I always looked like I was 30. So I just always looked like the parent. So it's like, now I'm coming into my own. But before, it's like I'm auditioning, for a high schooler when I look like I could be the teacher. So it was weird. Very awkward.
I don't believe that because you look like you're 25 now.
Oh my God. I just come on for flattery. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, my pleasure. I wouldn't lie about that. Like, I'm happy I look younger because otherwise we'd be going out for the same roles.
Oh, yeah. That's, well, I'm happy we aren't going out for the same roles because I know your booking ratio versus mine. So just gonna be grateful for that one. Yeah.
Strange industry.
Romy, you're getting so much love in the comments.
Oh, am I? I haven't been reading them.
There was a shout out to your Backstage role.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Was that one? I was looking at your IMDb. Very impressive, by the way. That was 60 episodes on Backstage. My goodness.
Yes, that was a lot. I was 15 when I started with Backstage, and then I was 16 when we finished. 2 summers in a row.
That's the best version of summer camp, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it was. I actually used to go to summer camp, and then I stopped that first summer for the first time when I started filming season 1 of Backstage, and it was obviously very bittersweet. I was so excited. It wasn't even a question about me going back to camp when that was an opportunity. But I was like, I'm going to miss all my friends. But then I obviously missed my friends. I can't lie. And I missed camp. But it was a full-on camp because there were 12, I think, like, it was like an ensemble cast, I would say, for the most part. And there were 12 of us, and we were all so young. And it was most of our, like, first big things or first consistent roles. And we all were living our best lives. We were just having so much fun. And it was the best experience ever. I wouldn't trade any of that for anything.
Do you remember the audition to get the role?
I do. It's so funny because you can, like, I feel like when you go in room for auditions back in the day, it's so easy to walk out and just forget everything right away. Like, it's such a blur. But for some reason, I vividly remember that whole audition. I think partially it was because my mom and I got into a little argument beforehand. So, you know, where Louis K has their auditions, how it's like a pretty difficult building to find.
This is awkward. No, I've never auditioned for them, but I'm gonna take your word.
Okay.
So sure, yeah, of course I do.
So
I audition there all the time, of course.
Yeah, all the time, every day. It's a normal building for me. That's why it's so easy to
that's
find.
so funny.
Okay, well, basically downtown, it's in like such an interesting location, and in the location, it's so hard to actually spot the building because so many buildings look the same. So I used to like freak out because I would want to be at least 15 minutes early. Like, I was a big keener. And my mom obviously had to drive me to my audition. I was 15 years old. And we were running late. And I'm like, Mom, just drop me off here. I'll walk to the building. She's like, okay. I didn't realize I was walking the wrong way. And on the street we were on, it was such a busy main road. And she's like honking. And she's like, no other way. And I'm like, what are you yelling at me for? And she's like, that way. Anyways, we went to like a little bit of a miscommunication on the street. And then I was like aggravated. And I was like, ugh. My mom made me late for my audition, even though now I would obviously, I can't believe that she used to drive me to my auditions all the time.
Right?
Yes.
That's the whole thing. When the parents of a child actor just deserves its own accolade. It's
honestly like the amount of time that was dedicated to me as a kid for my parents is insane, and I'm genuinely forever grateful for that. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, how can I get upset with her when that's what she did? But you know, when you're 15 and you're in your own mind, you're not thinking about that. Now I would never get mad, and we'd laugh about it to this day. And when I booked the role, I remember her being like, maybe I should fight with you before all your auditions. So I was like, maybe. And I go in and I remember exactly what I wore because the character breakdown was like DJ, alternative, different, and I wore little jean overalls, a black t-shirt, my hair in French braids, and 2 different colored socks and beads around my neck, and I felt so cool. And I walked into
that sounds
the room,
very cool.
I felt really cool, and I walked into the waiting room, and everyone was wearing exactly what I was going to wear, which was a flannel and a beanie, and I was like, oh, I made the wrong decision. No. And I was like, what can I do? Well, I'm here now. I was lucky I had some time to calm down, post a little argument, because luckily they were running a little bit late. And I go in and I do the scene, and we were just talking, and they were like, these are the notes, let's try it again. I'm like, okay. Did it again, got great feedback, great reactions. I was like, yeah, that went well, like, cool. And then this has never happened in an audition before, and it hasn't happened since. They were like, can you just talk about yourself for a bit? And I was like, what? You know, as an actor, you like having a script. You don't, and you talk about yourself. That's, no, you're supposed to see me as a character. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, just tell us what you're learning in school. Do you play any instruments? Like, your favorite hobbies? And I'm like, my hobby's acting. Like, I don't do anything else. So I'm like, I'm 15. I am at school and I'm learning, and I started like listing all the things that were going on in my semester. And I remember vividly forgetting my 5th course or my 4th course, whatever you take in high school. And I was just blank, and I was just there, like standing like, for what felt like 5 minutes. I'm sure it wasn't that long. And then I walked out and I was like, I blew that. I really blew that. And I was really upset about it. And then my mom and I made up in the car, and I told her about it, and she was like, I'm sure it was cute. It's fine. A few weeks later, I looked at my mom and I was like, assuming they did callbacks for Backstage, right? Because I remembered that audition so clearly, and she was like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, and we were like, okay, it is what it is, onward. And then I think like 2 days after that, I got a phone call. It was so weird. Yeah. And I was like, well, guess they didn't do callbacks.
Whoa, you didn't even have to do a callback. Oh my God.
No, I think that the point of them doing the whole like talk about yourself situation was for them to avoid doing callbacks. Because when I spoke to the producer on set later, he was like, yeah, that was our way of just getting to know who we're working with and the type of person you are and your personality. And I was like, I don't know why you hired me after seeing mine, but like, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. So it was fun. It was a really fun audition experience. Also, a really good friend of mine, Matthew Eisen, who played Jax, who ended up being a love interest of mine in season 2. He and I went to the same high school and the same camp. And about a week before I got my audition, I heard like word around the streets, what happens in my little area. Matthew Eisen isn't going back to camp. He's going on a Family Channel show. And I was like, Matthew Eisen acts? Like, what? That's crazy. And then I saw him at school and I was like, hey, and we were friends, but we weren't like we were not, he's like my brother now, but we were friends and we were like good friends, but not like talking every day, best friends. And I bumped into him and I was like, hi, congrats, I heard you're not going back to camp. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, it's actually funny. I have an audition for that show tomorrow. And he goes, no way, can I ask what character you're reading for? And I was like, Kit? And he goes, no. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, my scenes were with a guy named Kip. And I was like, it was originally a boy, and then they decided to audition girls for it. Oh. And I was like, well, I'm reading with Jax. And he's like, that's me. And I was like, wait, what? So when I booked it, I called him right away, and I was like, I guess we're going to be on TV together.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so cool.
It was so weird. It was honestly amazing. And experiencing that with him was also just a whole other amazing thing as well.
That's such an exciting process. And I don't know, I'm still absorbing the fact that you didn't need a callback and you just booked that role for 60 episodes. Okay, young lady, that's insane.
Oh, thank you. It was a fun one. It was very interesting. It was a lot of pressure. Believe me, when I got the call, I was like, I think they have the wrong person.
Oh my God. Little imposter syndrome there. Yeah. Okay.
100%. My mom and I were both like, no, sorry. Cause I was with my mom. No, my mom got the call first because I wasn't answering my phone, and I got the call, but I wasn't answering. And then my mom gets a call. My agent's like, hey, like Beryl, I just want to tell you, like, Romy, I hope like you can not send her to camp because she's not going. And my mom's like, what? And she's like, no, she booked a Family Channel series. And my mom's like, no, sorry, I don't think so. And then hung up. And she calls back and she's like, is Romy around? And my mom's like, yes. Romy? I think my mom was in more shock than me. My mom was just like sitting there and was acting so weird. And I was like, what is going on? Because, you know, my mom is very realistic. I feel like a lot of parents either see their children as like they are the next star, or there's my mom and is like, my kid's just cute. Like, good for her. Like, I'm so happy for her. So supportive, but it's like, it's such a weird industry. Like, you never know. I don't think anyone ever thought that. I mean, we all wanted it to happen, but I don't think anyone really thought it was actually going to happen. Something like that. If that makes sense.
So leading up to Backstage, did you like identify as an actor, or is it kind of a side hobby and then?
I think I did start to identify as an actor. I started at the age of 12, which I don't know. How old were you when you started?
I mean, look, I think I was born an actor personally. Like at the age of 6 and 7, I'm just raw. Like I'm just doing my own shows to whatever. These are like back in your day, listening to cassettes and doing like the Robyn show with my siblings. They could be the side characters. It was fine. I was generous with that, but I had to be the headliner.
That's so nice of you.
I know, it was very, very gracious of me. But I was always like performing, dancing, singing, whatever piano stuff like the kids do, right? And then, you go on those auditions. I, as a child, did not understand the audition room. It was the weirdest place for me. I
Oh, for
couldn't. So the
sure.
fact that you were a successful child actor is, I'm so impressed with it because like I would go into those rooms, freak out, and the fact that I had an agent that kept me on, I'm like, that was very gracious because I had no idea what I was doing. So going in and just being yourself and booking things, I think that's amazing. Like I don't know if any of your other siblings do it, but like I would always joke because one of my younger brothers, when he was in the worst mood, that's when he would either get a call back or book something. He just wasn't overthinking it, goes in, does this little pouty face and books. And I go, of course, because you don't want it badly enough. You're in a mood. I should be in a mood. So when you started saying you should fight with people, I thought that would get me out of my head. Maybe I should have just been fighting. If I could talk to my younger self, I would say, Robyn, just fight more. I don't know. That sounds like terrible advice.
No, but like, I mean, everyone has their own little thing and
their process. Can you imagine?
Their own process. Your process could have been arguing with someone before, it works.
Can you imagine that waiting room? You just see people fighting all the time. No one wants to work with you. You go, excuse me, this is my process. I need to fight.
It's a character choice.
It is.
It's a personal choice and a character choice.
Yeah, that's a terrible character choice. Do not recommend that.
That's so funny. Yeah, definitely not. But also, teach their own. No judgment-free zone. No,
but it's going in like, okay, so when you started out and that you would go in and you have to say your name and all that stuff, like, I used to think I was saying my name wrong. Like, you say your name and your agency or whatever, your height, whatever it is now. And I just always thought, what's the right way to say it? Like that was in my mind as a child, right? Like, oh, did I say my name right? I'm like, I mean, it's my name. So yeah.
No, I'm with you. I remember my first audition so clearly as well. I was auditioning for a Monopoly commercial.
Yes.
And I walk in, and this was the experience where my parents took a lot of convincing to let me do it, not because they weren't supportive, but because they were like, we can't put this pressure on a kid. This is insane. Like, no. So I got my first audition after my parents were like, okay, let's do it. She really wants to. Let's go for it. She's having fun. I go into this room, and there are hundreds of kids. Hundreds. And I'm in the first group, which is the only reason I'm convinced I got a call back, because otherwise there was no way I was getting a call back. And they put us in little groups, and we go in the room, and they go, okay, so I need you guys to slate, and then we'll do the scene. And meanwhile, everyone's like, and I'm like, slate? What is a slate? And I'm looking around, and then luckily somebody there goes, what do you want us to say? I guess they were a real child actor, knew that every slate consists of something different. He goes, your name, your agency, maybe your height. And I was like, I don't even know my height. Like, what? So I look at the person next to me, and I was like, please go first, because we're around the same height. I'm just going to go with that. So I get up there, I say my name, my height, my agency. And I was like, what is going on right now? I'm so confused. And that's when I was like, did I do this right? Like, something feels off here. And then all of these girls, there were girls and boys, because we were all doing the same scene. Everyone was just going for it. And I was like, well, I guess I'm never going to see anyone in this room again unless we're both on the same commercial. So I might as well just go for it. So I was like, I'm going to get dropped. Like, this didn't last very long for me. So I just do it. The guy comes out, and he goes, okay, so Romy, Robyn, Jessie, and Alyssa, can you guys please stay? We want you guys to stay for the callbacks or for second round at 6 o'clock. The rest of you can go home.
Oh.
And my mom and I look at each other, and we're like, did he just send people home? And did he just tell me to stay? Like, what? So that's when my mom calls my agent. She goes, so Romy got a call back. My agent's like, what? Like, how do you know she got a call back? And my mom's like, no, like, they asked Romy to stay. And my agent's like, oh, that's great. And my mom's like, yeah, no, that's great. But is this what happens at every audition? Because if my kid was the one that was sent home, like, this is not happening again. And she goes, no, this is not normal. I promise you this is not normal. This is very, very rare. My mom's like, okay, whatever you say. Luckily, something like that. Oh, I went in for the callback, and there were plenty of other groups. And like, keep in mind, like I was at like 4 o'clock. This was like a 10-minute session. Callback was maybe at 6 o'clock. I don't think they looked at me more than once when I walked in that room. And even if they looked at me, they were like, oh, she was in the first group. She's our filler. Okay. But I was thriving. I was like, oh, I'm going to be the next big thing. Look at me getting callbacks my first audition. Not actually, but I just remember I was like in shock. And I did say to my mom in the car at home, I was like, I don't know. My mom's like, what would you have done if you got sent home? She's just trying to gauge what this is to me. And I was like, I'd be really upset. And my mom's like, shit. Oh, I thought my kid didn't care. I thought she was just having fun. She obviously likes what she's doing. I never booked the audition, obviously. I remember seeing it on YTV, thinking it was so cool that I even got to audition for it. So there was the positive side. But I just thought it was so interesting. And that was a very scary experience. And I think since then, all the other auditions as a kid, I used to just go in with with the mindset, because when I was younger, I was so shy. And
I did not know that.
Oh, I was the shyest kid. Characters really, really made me the person I am today, CharActors Theatre Troup. And my logic would just be like, and my parents didn't understand how their shy kid was doing this. And my logic was, never going to see these people again unless they like me. So might as well just go
see,
in
you know what?
forever.
I think you had such a maturity to think that way, because I haven't even shared this story. I haven't thought of this in a while. My first commercial audition, or even my first ever on-camera audition, this was before your time. And they called us in, again, the same confusion with what a slate is, but I didn't go first. So I figured it out based on what other people said. And then they said, okay, so here's the scenario. You guys, you see the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, and you yell and you're excited to see them. And me being like this intellectual 9-10-year-old is going, but they're not here. I don't understand. What, right? Like I just couldn't. And then I see everyone else scream and I go, they look ridiculous. Why are they screaming like that? I don't know if I even like the band. I don't think they would excite me, right? So I'm having this whole philosophical discussion when they just want a happy, excited girl. It was so funny.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
Oh my God. But the fact that I love that you could say, yeah, I'm never going to see these people again, so let's just do it. It's very brave.
But it's hard. It's very hard too. I think I just did commercial auditions for the first few months, if not a year of me acting. And in most commercial auditions, they pair you up with somebody, or you're with somebody else, or families or something. And honestly, I think I just saw what other people were doing, and I was like, I could do that. Like, why not? There's no point in not doing it. But there were some weird ones. There were definitely some weird ones where they're like, you're in a mine. You're hunting for gold right now. And I'm like, I'm in a room with 4 blue walls. Like, I am not. And it's definitely like, but am I going to look weird? Like, miming a flashlight? Like, looking like this? Like, and I'm like, you're a little kid. They're just looking for a little kid to smile and go full out and do whatever they want. So,
yeah.
It's the way of looking at it. Definitely, like, I don't think anyone in my family knew what went on in those rooms, nor did they think I was doing what I was doing, because they would be like, I'd walk out, my mom would be like, how was it? And I'd be like, good. Or like, I don't know. And she'd be like, okay, you want to go get a hot chocolate? And I'd be like, yep. And that'd be the end of the story. I miss that being my mindset, where it would just be like, good. I don't know. I'm over it. Because now, obviously, it's like...
Well, it's hard too, because I think now that you're going for roles that are not even more serious, but there's more depth to the character than just a smiley, happy kid, you put so much more work into it, right? You don't have to just show up and do as you're told. You have to do some prep. You have to make decisions beforehand. Yeah. So I think you're more invested in the characters that you audition for now. So, I mean, but you still, and I mean, I don't know if you still have that mindset. The fact that you're able to audition for these roles is pretty awesome.
Oh.
right? And
Yeah.
I like to think that they're giving you that audition because they think you can do it. And if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, if it's a good audition, they'll remember you. And they'll be, okay, she wasn't right for this one, but we'll bring her back for this role.
Thank you. No, I hope so. That's what Steven says. So
Oh, maybe I was paraphrasing the genius that is Steven
the
from LB
genius that
Acting
is Steven,
Studio. Yeah.
he, I feel like, he's helped with that a lot over the years. Since I started working with him and Lewis as well, from LB Acting Studio. Shout out.
We're just giving shout outs.
No, I think, to answer your question, like that you asked a little bit ago about when did I kind of consider myself an actor, is I was really embarrassed by it, not because it was an embarrassing thing. I just didn't want to be, and my parents really put that into me. Like, if you are going to be the kid that's walking around being like, I'm an actor, I do this, then we're not going to let you do it, because a lot of child actors could be very, look at me, or, I don't know what the word is, out there.
I mean, yeah, kind of not overly into themselves, but I get what you're saying, kind of flamboyant in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's just like the stereotype that people think of when you think of child actors, yet all of my friends I made when I was younger, and they're all great people, and nobody was fully like, look at me, at all. But I think that's what my parents just associated it with when they thought of child actors. They were like, I don't want my kid walking around being like, I'm auditioning, I'm leaving school to go to an audition, I'm working, I'm doing this. They just wanted me to be a kid. They wanted me to go to birthday parties and laugh with my friends and jump off the jungle gym and hurt myself. I mean, they didn't want that, but they wanted me to experience life, and they wanted me to experience like raw childhood. So I used to not really tell people that I acted, and my parents and I both agreed when I convinced them to let me do it. They were like, the second you stop having fun, you're done. Like, you don't have to do this. It's okay. They didn't take that too seriously. There were times where obviously I'd be upset, and they were like, it is what it is. Do you want to keep doing this? And I'd say, yep. And they'd be like, okay, then you can keep doing it. I don't know. I actually meant to ask them this recently, because somebody asked me a similar question. I wonder if they thought I'd still be doing it at the age of 21. Because I don't think I did.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I think I was like, this is fun, and that's what it is. And then I think that's just when I first signed with my agent. But then as I started doing it, I was like, wow, I can't not have this in my life. This is a high. Like, this is an escape. This is everything I've always needed and more. And I didn't even know that this existed. And I think every time I kept going into an audition room, I wanted it that much more, or I wanted the experience that much more. Even just going into an audition room and getting to do what you love and having nobody around you except for the 3 people in front of you judging you, versus like theater, you're on stage and you have a whole audience. And that's what I grew up doing. And I was like, what is this experience? Like, this is insane. And then my first time on set was for a commercial. I think I was 12, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, I want this for the rest of my life. And I think it's when I got to 15, Backstage for sure, that year leading up to Backstage audition is when I said to my parents, I was like, I love camp so much, but I don't know if I should go anymore. And they were like, what? Because I was such a camper. And they were like, oh, okay. Well, we paid for the summer, so you're going. I was like, no, I want to go this summer, but next summer. And they were like, thanks. That's okay, because summers have always been busy for kids. And I was always like, what am I missing out on? And for me to come to that realization and choose that over something that was so important to me and was something I grew up doing and loving, I was like, wait, I'm an actor. Like, and then obviously as I grew up, I would say probably in grade 8, grade 9 is when I'd be like, yeah, I act, but I'd still be shy about it. And I still think I am slightly shy about it. Like, with people outside of the industry, when they ask questions, it's just like, oh yeah, I do that, and it's fun. I don't know, like, it's a weird thing to talk about, especially when somebody doesn't fully understand what goes in behind it. It's not just like, Yeah, I audition and I'll know when I find out, and I'm gonna be on set treated like a little diva. Like that's not how it works at all. So I think that's what makes it a little bit weird. But I remember during Backstage, I was like, I'm an actor. Like this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And at the age of 16, I started to get a lot of deeper, darker auditions that they would need 16 to play younger with more mature subject matter. And obviously my mom was still CC'd on my emails, and she kind of took a step back and was like, I love that you love what you're doing, but I don't know how comfortable I am with some of this. And then I called my agent and I was like, we need to talk. And she's like, okay, let's go for coffee. And I was like, okay. So me and my agent went for coffee, and we still say, like, to this day, probably a big moment of our relationship, that me at like little 16 called her and was like, we need to talk. And she's like, okay. And we spoke about everything I was comfortable with. And I explained my mom wasn't comfortable with certain things that I was comfortable with. And she's like, okay, but you're 16, you're not an adult. So at the end of the day, obviously this is important for your parents to be comfortable with. Now that I know what your feelings are, we can now speak to your mom properly and discuss where her line really stands.
Right.
And other ways we can maybe go about it. Like maybe we audition for something that has this subject matter, and if there's a callback or interest shown, we can discuss what ways we can go about it. And I'd say, so obviously we did that. My mom was super, super supportive about all of that. And I think it took her, I think that's when she realized, she was like, wow, okay, my kid really wants this. She really likes what she's doing. She likes telling these stories. Because I had to explain, I was like, I'm not telling this story because it's scary or because there's this subject matter and I find that amusing. I'm doing that because that's storytelling, that's art. That's why I want to do what I'm doing. And if these are the auditions I'm getting, I can't turn down those opportunities. And I think that's when my mom was like, okay, like you want this and I'm not going to get in your way. I think my dad has always been very supportive, but I think he's always stayed out of those conversations because I'm the youngest, I'm the baby, I'm his little girl. So I think that his line would be like way different to my mom and I. So he's always stayed out of that. And luckily I haven't done anything that has made my parents uncomfortable on camera, on screen. I mean, I've auditioned for stuff where they might not have been happy, but luckily nothing too bad that they've had to sit and watch.
Yeah. But you know, the fact that you were able to have that discussion with your agent, just sharing your boundaries, I think it's such an important discussion for everyone to have. So I love that, again, the age of 16, you're having this discussion, this coffee with your agent. Like, let's discuss what I'm comfortable with. And I just think it's great because there's so many actors out there that would just do anything, right? That desperate actor mentality. I'll do anything you give me. But then you're on set if you book it and you're uncomfortable and then it's not your best work. So the fact that you're aware before and you don't do anything that you're not comfortable doing, it's like really, really good, impressive. Like just such good foresight at the teenager. My God, Romy. You're just so mature.
I was mature. Now I'm like, I'll do anything. Yeah, sure.
Now it's your 20s. Now let's do everything. Okay.
Obviously, my boundaries have changed growing up, and I'm not as timid and scared about things, but I definitely do still, and I think everyone should, and everyone does, definitely still have things where I'm not 100% comfortable, or I'm comfortable with it, but there would just have to be a discussion ahead of time. How will this be filmed? I think also now there's a lot more protection everywhere with everything, especially with ACTRA and the union and everything. So I think nowadays I also wouldn't be as nervous doing a lot of things. Also at the time of 16, your parents don't have to be on set with you.
I did not know that. Really?
Yes. I think theater is different, but camera, 16, your parents don't have to be on set with you anymore. So there was always like a fear of, oh, well, now if my mom can't be on set with me, she doesn't have to find someone to be on set with me. But also my kid is 16 and she's not going to stand up for herself. And she
Okay.
was not wrong.
Right.
Where now I don't, I would like to believe that if I were ever put in an uncomfortable position, I would know to put my foot down. But luckily, I also know I could just call my agent or actor and be like, help me. But I don't think that's happening. Like, I just don't, you never know, obviously, with any
Yeah.
job, anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that everything's more protected. I've also been on more sets alone. At that point, I had never been on a set alone. Because the first thing I filmed when I was 16, other than Backstage, was Shadowhunters, and that was a night shoot. And it was, I don't remember where it was filming, but it wasn't like super close, so my mom had to drive me anyways. I didn't have my license, and my mom was like, do you mind if I stay in your trailer? I won't come on set with you, but do you mind if I stay in your trailer because you're shooting till likely 2 a.m. and I just don't want you to be here alone. And I was like, yep, anything. It doesn't make sense for you to come back and pick me up later, and you can stay. It's okay, Mom. Like, it's okay.
I love that your mom is in your trailer. I love that you have a trailer. That's the dream, right? I'll be in my trailer.
I mean, it was a very small trailer. It was like a box, but it was nice. I mean, I feel bad looking back at it that she stayed in there. She should have come on set to watch or something, but I think she was trying to give me my space and let me do my thing, but also be a mom. And
Oh my God. It's like I just love this heartwarming what the parents do, right? They're sitting in a little box waiting. They don't want to disturb the artist, right? Like, oh my gosh.
they're actually amazing. And my mom, both my parents are so supportive. My whole family is so supportive. But looking back, because my dad was just working more, my mom used to drive me, pick me up from school early, drive me probably an hour downtown, hour and a half for me to go in a room for 5 or 10 minutes. Not even 10 minutes. I would say like 2 minutes to 5 minutes. Ask me how it went. I wouldn't even tell her. I would be like, good. She'd be like, okay. And then drive me home and just only be too happy. But I must be honest, I miss those days. Because then I started to drive, obviously, as I got older. I think as I got my license, I started to drive myself just because it was helpful to my parents.
As you start to drive yourself, do you realize how hard it is to find parking downtown? Is it like the biggest nightmare?
Also, just driving downtown in general.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No.
Are you in
I live downtown.
area?
Yeah, I live downtown. So but I'm just picturing driving from where you live to downtown. And I go, yeah, that's not a fun drive.
No, especially at a young age where I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And you're trying to get in the zone and you're trying to think about everything you're doing. Obviously, there were times, especially towards the beginning, I would drive with my mom. So she would like show me the ropes. Or sometimes I'd call her and I'd be like, Mom, where's parking at this building? And she'd be like, you just got to park here. You got to go 10 minutes early so you can walk. And I'm like, I have to walk? Because she used to just drop me off at the front. Like, oh my God. Honestly, an angel. And I miss those days. Those were fun days. But I'm forever.
I mean, fun for you. I'm sure your parents are done. You've grown up. No, I'm joking.
Definitely. They're like, yeah, you do your own thing now. We're good taking a seat. We're gonna sit in the back seat. You're in the driver's seat. But there were times where even when I was like 18 or even 19 before COVID, where I'd be like, Mom, do you want to drive me? And she'd be like, yeah. Like, okay.
Hey, look, I will admit there are times I even say to my husband, can you drive me? I just don't want to find parking.
Right?
Can you please drive me? I need to not be in a bad headspace for this one.
Also, sometimes it's nice to have another person in the car with you and take your mind off what you're about to do or go through. I just think it's nice. It's important. Yeah. And being around people who also you love and love you, they're not going to judge you if you need like your own space for a minute, and you can kind of just be like, wait, I need to step back. That's what I missed, is when my mom would drive me, at least I'd be able to go through my sides in the car.
Yes, the side. So there were points, because I use my husband for my reader all the time, and there were points when I would be going over my lines, and because I reviewed them so much before, he knew them already. So he's not looking at the script. He's just
Wow.
saying it from memory because he's not as invested as I am. So my nerves are playing with my head and I'm forgetting the words. And then he starts saying my lines. I'm going, my goodness, hubby. So it's just so funny. It always makes me laugh.
You're a reader for your self-tapes?
He is. Yeah. It just helps so much. But
And how does
wait,
that go? Does he outshine you?
I see. That's what I wonder. That's probably the only reason I'm not booking is because my husband.
Honestly, maybe he should be on camera.
I tell him that a lot. He's got a lot going on with his other actual job. So, I mean, no, I will not say that. Acting is an actual job. That sounded rude. But, you know, he's got a lot going on too. Yeah. But
that's how I feel when my sister on the occasion reads with me. I'm like, wait, you're actually good.
But you know what? I like to think that they picked up from us how to act. But really, I think I always think that anyone can be an actor if you just get out of your own head. You know, if you don't overthink certain scenes, I mean, some scenes are really hard and you need to have that experience and that training, but some basic scenes where you go, yeah, this is just a coffee shop conversation.
Well, that's the thing. People are like, how do you learn your lines? And I'm like, well, if you think about it and you know the storyline and you know the character, like you've read the description or you've created your own description for it, because sometimes the description isn't very helpful, and you read the script once, you should kind of just know what the conversation's going to say. I'm not a huge person for audition purposes. Obviously, when you're on set, it's a different story. I don't really stress about word for word just because I think that's only going to mess me up. I would rather it sound natural. Obviously, you don't want to like change the script, but I mean, if I say,
I'm smiling because I think of the conversation you have with Steven, where if you book a coaching with Steven, you go, yeah, I'll learn the words during the coaching. It's fine. And then you just kill your audition. It's so funny to me. I love how you go in, just chill mindset. It's great.
It's not chill though. I don't want anyone to think like I don't put work into it. I just do other work instead of learning the lines. I think like for me, sometimes I'll try to find a movie or a TV show where I see the character that I'm auditioning for as someone else, and I can watch that and see how they carry themselves, their body language, their little habits. Also just learning the story, learning the character, what maybe like instincts she would have or they would have. And I think that's super important because for me, it's a very personal thing. Some people would never.
But what you're saying makes sense. Like putting that work into it is so much more important than, okay, the line was actually at the coffee shop, not at the coffee store.
Of course, I'll have an idea of what I'm saying. That's not a question. I don't go in and not read the script. It's more just like,
you're focusing on what matters, right? Like I would be, okay, what do I wear and what are the word perfect lines?
I love wardrobe for auditions because I think it just really helps, even hair and makeup. And I think watching something that's the same tone or idea is very helpful for me personally. And I know some people would hate doing this because they like to decide. I'll think of more like similar thoughts or, okay, when did I feel this way? Or when did I do this when I'm looking at the script versus like, what am I saying? And then throughout the audition, I'll learn what I'm actually saying because for me, I find if I went into a coaching with Steven with my lines learned and then he coaches me in a different direction, I'm screwed. I'm like, no, this is how I learned it. This is what I'm doing. So it's the same thing with auditions is I don't stress as much about the lines because for me, I find, again, very personal thing. I just find better moments happen for me when I'm not planning it. And I learned that the hard way. And I think Lewis definitely pointed that out to me as a kid is he'd be like, you just did something and I don't know what you did. And I'd be like, what did I do? And he's like, no, I don't know, but it worked. And I'd be like, okay. And he's like, did you think about this? And I was like, no. And he's like, that's why it worked. Or I'd flub on a line and I'd stutter and I'd be like, no, we have to go again. And Steven or Lewis would be like, no, you don't, because that is natural. And I was like, oh, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I realized all the auditions that I thought weren't going well is what I would hear back from. And I was like, even if it was just good feedback or a callback or maybe sometimes, rarely, a booking, I'd be like, oh, so this is what works for me. And whenever I'd plan out certain moments or ideas or reactions and I'd go into class with them is where I'd say is probably the big thing, is Steven or Lewis would be like, or Jacob, I used to coach with Jacob too when I was younger, they'd be like, you planned that. Or they'd be like, that didn't work, or I didn't believe something in your eyes. And obviously they're super honest and helpful and make you into the actor you want to be. And that's just how I realized. I was like, oh, okay, so if I'm going into an hour coaching, I can learn my lines as I go. If it's like a 15-page audition,
I was totally
story.
teasing you, but yeah. No, I was teasing you, but also it's very. I love that you said the process.
It's
so
what
important,
I do, though.
Right?
So it's not teasing. I just didn't want anyone to think like, oh, she just does it. Like, no. I promise.
Oh yeah, there's work to it, absolutely. But I love that you say find a similar character as well that you can kind of picture in that role or even mimic their behavior, because I think mannerisms and physicality is so important in a role. So I love that you go deep with that.
That's hard though, because I also have very bad posture in general, and I always think of that, and I'm always standing like this, and then I'll be auditioning for a mean girl or like a super confident person. I'll be like, yeah, and I'll be like, oh no, shoulders down and back. Yes, I am confident. I promise. I know what I'm doing and what I'm saying.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Oh, have you ever called for line in an in-person audition?
No, but I probably should have. You know, when you just kind of like, oh, I know there's a part, I'm just going to skip over that. And then there's that look of, she should have called for line.
No, yep. I used
that
to
was the important part of the scene. Needed to ask about the key for the line after that to make sense. My bad.
No, I used to do the same thing. And I remember one time, I don't know which casting director it was, but it was like an important one. And they were like, I think we should go again because you skipped this chunk. And I was like, what chunk? Sorry? And they handed me the sides and I was like, oh, like the whole plot. Like I said hi and I said bye and that was it. And I was like, I am going to be blacklisted. I'm never being called back by them. I think it was a little bit of time before I went back to them.
But isn't that the worst when you're in person and you make a flub like that and you have to get out of your head to go, okay, let's pull it together. Yes, I missed this huge chunk, but let's just get out of that self-critic.
Like, oh, so I'm supposed to go again now? Like, can I take a second? And meanwhile, you're like, no, there's 5 girls in the waiting room. They're already running 5 minutes late. Now I'm making everyone 10 more minutes late. Someone's going to be late for their dinner. Someone's mom is getting upset because they're idling outside. Like, there's so many things you're thinking of, and you're like, no. I'll never forget when I was younger. I was auditioning for Rookie Blue, I want to say. Maybe
Sounds
not.
Right. I don't know. Ricky Blue's a thing. Rookie?
No.
Did I say Ricky Blue? Rookie Blue. Classic Ricky Blue.
Ricky Blue. I think that's what the audition was for. I was in there. They like matched us up with brother and sisters. I was in there with a pretty cute boy. I was young. It was one of my first bigger auditions. It was for an episode, but I was like, oh my goodness, it's TV. I've heard of this show. My brother watches it. I really think it was Ricky Blue. I could be wrong though. And all of a sudden we're going. I'm having a great time. I'm a little distracted. I was like, I've never experienced this before. And all of a sudden there's silence in the room. And I'm like looking at the boy next to me. I remember his name, but I won't say him. And I was looking at him and I was like, come on, dude, say your line. And he's like looking at me. And all of a sudden I was like, line? And they were like, no. And I was like, they were like, the line is no. And I was like, no. And then the whole scene continued. And I was like, oh, I think that was one of the first auditions I cried after. I was like, embarrassed myself in front of this cute boy, embarrassed myself in front of casting, which is way more important than the cute boy that's like 4 years older than me and just I'm never going to see again. Embarrassed myself in front of whoever else was in the room. And on top of that, the line was no. It wasn't even a long line. And I think they use those sides also often at LB. And when I TA'd, I think a few kids had them. And I was like, no, get these away from me. It's a great experience. That experience taught me a lot. And it's clearly stuck with me. And I'm like, yeah.
That's so interesting. So I don't know, how did you find LB acting, if you don't mind? Like, did your agent tell you? Did you?
Oh, how did I find it? I thought you meant like
Like, how was the atmosphere?
I was like, it's okay. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, I love it.
It's whatever. No.
There every session. Yeah. So when I signed with my agent, I came from characters. I was doing.
Oh yeah. Oh, we have to discuss. Okay, I'm gonna backtrack.
Okay.
So how did you find characters? I need to know this because when I found out that you went to character, it's Matt and Daniel Karp says LB Acting Studio as a joke because we all know each other from LB Acting Studio and they're great. But also you went to characters, which was my childhood. So when I found that out, I freaked out a bit and was so excited. So how did you?
Too.
Yeah, I know. I'm just talking like you went there, I went there. So how did you discover characters? Because you said you were a shy kid. So what was the thought process of going to characters?
So yeah, no, I was painfully shy. I used to hide behind my parents, not say a word to anyone unless you got to know me. Obviously, I was like a weirdo with my friends, and I did plays at school and I loved them, but I was always like, oh, like, which is fine, and that's the most fun roles, to be honest. I was like tree number 2. And occasionally,
but not number 3. So there you go.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not number 1. I didn't steal the show, but I also wasn't number 3. I was.
You're silver. Silver's great. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so I will explain. CHarActers Theatre Troup. Sorry, there was a question there. CHarActers Theatre Troup is this acting studio in Thornhill, I would say. Is it Thornhill?
Vaughan.
Yeah. And they do. Oh, yeah, Vaughan. Yeah, I never know what's Thornhill or Vaughan. But they put on plays. They I don't know how they still run it, but back in my day, you would do like a show per year.
Yeah.
So everyone that's for whatever day, everyone auditions, and then they give you a role, and then you put on a show at the end of it, and it's just this really cool extracurricular thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like dance. Like you.
Yeah, exactly. Like after school dance, you go after school characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put on a show. Yeah.
Best place ever. Like I actually grew up there, and yeah, just the one summer, because everyone in my area and my age went to camp and I was a shy kid and didn't want to leave my parents. My parents were like, what do we do with our kid this summer? Like, oh, no. They heard about characters from a friend of mine who went to my school, and they knew that I liked doing plays. I think that year I was like Jane and Mary Poppins.
Oh, you would have been my dad. No, I'm just shy.
Oh,
Jane
yes.
is. Yeah. Oh, no, that was a different theater company.
No,
but yes.
Yeah. This was like my elementary school production.
Look at you getting Jane. That's
right.
So my pretty much a lead. Okay.
Right. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing.
You're almost Mary Poppins. Okay.
I was basically Mary Poppins. It was a one-man show, and I was so shy and weird the entire time, obviously. But my parents were like, "Hey, she likes what she's doing. Here's something to keep her busy. Let's send her to characters." So I did Star Camp, which is when you like write your own plays. And I mean, we don't, but the staff write the plays and put on a little production with a bunch of musicals and songs. And I was actually a dancer at the time. I danced, is what I should say.
A mover, that's what you are, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I would actually say I was a dancer, but I danced. And I came and we were fun, and I really like just had the best time because there were only, I think, 6 kids, so I was allowed to be like weird and my actual self, and I would dance and like have fun. And I definitely was no singer, and I was not great at acting, but I was a fun kid at that point. And my parents had never seen me like this ever. And so his name is Daniel, or is Daniel. Daniel actually approached my mom at the end of Star Camp and was like,
oh, is this Daniel Brimbaum?
Yeah. So
yeah, okay.
Daniel was like, we're doing, I don't know if anyone knows or remembers Judy and David. So Judy and David did live shows, and they have a traveling troupe, and somebody dropped out for whatever reason, and they couldn't do auditions for just one kid. There was no need. And Daniel was like, would Romy be interested? She can dance and she can have fun. And like, you don't really have to sing. You just mouth the words to whatever the album is. And my mom's like, my kid? And he's like, yeah. And my mom's like, wrong kid. Like, my kid doesn't speak. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, seriously, I think that she would be great. So my parents spoke to me, and I was like, yeah. And they were like, but then you're gonna have to quit dance. And I was like, done. I mean, it was a hard choice because I missed my friends, but dance was never really my thing.
Where did you dance? What was available at the time?
Dance Sensation.
Oh, adorable. Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's like studio, unfortunately closed down, but great studio. Grew up there. My sister went the whole way. I think I started dancing there when I was 3. I still did recreational for a year or 2 after, but dance was just never my thing. I was never good. I never had the passion for it, so I never really enjoyed it. And when you're doing competitive dancing, your hours of your week are dedicated
Oh,
to
they're
that.
shot. Yeah, absolutely.
So I was like, great, get me out. And my parents always knew, like, she didn't love it, but like, it's exercise, it's extracurricular. Like, what else are we supposed to do with our kid, right?
So wait, so you would do the recitals at the end of the term, right? Or
Yes, yes.
oh my God, those recitals, I do not. That's so funny.
Yeah,
Love
no,
it. Okay.
they were not for me, but it was fun. I loved competitions and stuff. So I quit. I did Judy and David, and I signed up for characters throughout the year. So my parents were like, "Hey, well, you should still do like one more thing, right?" That year it was Seussical the musical. I was a bird girl, very small.
Number 1? No.
I think like number 3. That's when I was bird girl number 3. I think my parents had to push me on stage. But Judy and David, I was out there, I was having the best time. I was great characters. I loved the process, but I just didn't speak. I was so shy. I was so intimidated. And I was just like weird, and which I still am weird, but in a different way. I was weird. Being weird's the best. But so my parents were like, okay, this is interesting. And the following year, my parents were like, do you want to do this again? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, okay. So I auditioned for Judy and David. So you have to audition every year. Did that. And then they were doing Honk.
I don't think I know that one.
It's basically the Ugly Duckling.
Oh, okay.
And then on top of that, there's City Youth Players, which is associated with characters. But that's like full on like local theater productions, audition process, etc. And they were doing Joseph. And Megan was like, you should audition for the kids choir because we just need a bunch of kids. You're small, you're cute. Do it. I was like, okay. So I did that. And
this is Megan Davis, one of the owners of Characters.
Great person. And she said to me in my audition, she was like, can you just pretend we're not here and just go for it? So I did that. And she was like, great. Please do that for your Honk audition on Tuesday or Saturday, whatever. And I was like, okay. So I came in, I did the same thing. I was super nervous. And then Wayne Davis, Megan's husband, said to me, close your eyes, pretend we're not here, or like look at the back of the room. I did that. Following week, I found out I was ugly act 2. So I was the lead.
Oh my God. Sorry, it's just the fact that you said ugly act 2. I understood you meant the ugly duckling, but that's just hilarious. Okay.
Oh,
in act 2, I become ugly. Okay.
Yeah, so act 1, I was really cute, but act 2, hideous. I mean, I did turn into a swan, though, so it's okay.
That's true. That's true.
And I remember I was ugly, and I was like, what? And Megan pulled me aside and was like, you just blew us away. Not, and I know she didn't mean because of my singing ability. That's just a whole other story. But it was more like, for characters versus City Youth Players, characters is more like, I think, especially when you're younger, maybe as you get older, it's not as much about that. But when you're younger, it's like, who's going to go and have fun and do their thing on stage versus like everything else. And she was like, we just loved watching you. And I remember I was like, wow. And that gave me so much confidence. And from there on, I just radiated how I felt throughout when I'd be with Judy and David, with those girls. And like, I was like, oh, well, now I'm not just like some random character, which is never a thing, because then the next year I was a random character and had the most fun with it, because believe that was my only time playing a lead other than my senior year. But I always loved being ensemble. That's why I love City Youth Players too, because being ensemble, you get to create a whole character of your own, and it's just so much fun. And I'm not a singer, and I was never confident being the lead other than when I was 12 or 13, 12, and I thought that I was super cool. And that's when my agent saw me and not Judy and David, and Joseph, and she was like, she's so small, because I was very small for my age. She could play way younger. Like, I really think that she should do this. Will she come and audition for me? And my parents were like, our kid didn't speak till 2 weeks ago. Like, no. And she's like, no, come on. And Megan and Daniel really tried to convince my mom and my dad, and my parents were like, it just doesn't make sense. We can't put that pressure on our kid. And then something happened. I was at a dance competition watching my sister, and I was like running my lines for characters, and agent was backstage and was like, oh, do you act? And then gave her card, but I think she was just giving it to kind of every kid there. And my
Hey,
mom,
the hustle is real. I respect that. Okay.
yeah, no, for sure. Because she just was scouting actual performers, and then saw me and she was like, oh, okay, here's my card. Like, being nice, probably. Making me feel like I was doing something. And my parents were like, I remember my mom telling Megan and Daniel, and they were like, just go let her meet with Shari, who's my agent now and has been my agent forever. And my mom's like, fine, okay. But I didn't know this happened. And one day she called me and she was like, tell me what plays you've been in. And I was like, why? And she's like, just tell me. And I was like, it's happening. And I met with Shari, and it was super nerve-wracking, and I really wanted it, but I was like, okay, if she doesn't sign me, because there was always that possibility, I'm gonna go get braces this year. And
The braces, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I'll get my braces and I'll come back in a year's time. And I think, actually, I guess I always knew that this is what I really wanted to do. And she signed me. It was great. It was a great experience. And that's where I found out about LB, because she's like, you obviously have been doing theater, very over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Kid, I want you to learn how to do film and television and tone it down. Because when you're on theater, you're performing for the back of the theater. Or on camera, you're performing for a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's when she suggested LB to me. And my mom and I met with Lewis, and she felt super comfortable with me being in his hands for private coaching. And then he obviously suggested group classes, which I think was huge, because you really have to get out of your comfort zone there. And that's when I started training with Jacob. And I think I did many sessions with him as a kid. I was a little shit disturber in his class. He still remembers that. And yeah, I think that's just how it all came about. So characters actually made me the person I am. They made me not a little shy girl. Made me feel super comfortable in my own skin. And for them, I'm always thankful for that. And
oh my God, I'm getting chills. I love this. Oh my God. Yeah.
I even talked about it with Megan in my final senior year speech. She's like, you were painfully shy. And I was like, yeah. And it's truly because of her, Daniel, Wayne, Sid, Sharon as I got older, just everyone. I'm missing people, of course, but everyone there.
You should have had a list prepared. This is your acceptance speech, thanking the Academy. Okay.
Thank you guys so much. I just want to thank CHarActors Theatre Troup, my parents, myself, Robyn, for having me today.
Oh my God, this would be the most amazing play. We should end it on this note.
We should.
I'm laughing so hard because to this day, when I auditioned for whenever I did, I can't even remember the year. And I, as an adult, auditioned for them, and I'm still terrified to audition for them. I can't explain why. I'm like, I need to impress them. It's terrifying.
No, for sure, of course. Because it's also like, oh, you've seen me grow up, and now I really have to live up to like.
I know, now it's, the bar is set. Maybe I just going to lower the bar. I'm just going to.
I can't believe you went to CHarActors.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
But I love the people that you met and helped you along your way. Because I'm like, I know all these people. So I just love that they made you who you are. It's so heartwarming.
It is. And it's nice.
I just, you know what, Romy, like I remember seeing certain scenes that you do in class, and I just love watching you on camera. You're really good at what you do. I know I messaged you when I saw you on camera on some Netflix show. I got very excited because I'm like, I know her and she did great. And I don't care how small the role was. I think you were great.
Thank you. That was the best experience. Truly, that was a great experience. Ginny and Georgia.
It looked really Yeah, Judy and Georgia. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know her. And also I love when I watch those party scenes and I go, that is not a party scene, okay? That is not what happened in where do they get the budget for these costumes, these kids?
I wasn't invited to many high school parties, so I would say like that was high school parties, but I wouldn't know.
That I know, I'm like, I don't, was I invited to these parties? It was, but that's what I love about television, about films, about creating this atmosphere that people are living through. Oh, David says it. Oh my gosh. You were great in Joseph, Romy. That show was a lot of fun to do. Look at that, Dave. Thanks for joining.
Wait, that's crazy.
Oh yeah.
So like full circle.
Yeah, I brought him on a chat too. I think I love the people from Characters that I met there. I think you got like, everyone's doing such great things. And Romy, I'm just so proud of your journey and how you were just kind of owning who you are at a young age. And just, I know it's like certain shyness, but you overcame it quite quickly. Because when you told me you were shy, I never would have thought it. So like, thank you for just, I don't know, promoting people to be themselves and like, owning who you are. And also I agree, like I see your social media, you're not in your face like I'm an actor, you're just like, this is who I am, whatever, share some randomness, you're adorable. So I very much like watching your journey, not in a creepy way, just in a fan way. Okay.
Oh my gosh, stop it. I feel the exact same way about you. And when I saw you and when I met you, I was like, wow, this is crazy and intimidating. And that's how I feel anytime I step into any class at LB. When I see everyone on camera, I'm like, wow, everyone is amazing and I'm intimidated. However, this is why I'm here, and to learn from everyone. And I continue to learn from you and every single individual who I'm in class with. So I think that's why I love acting class, not just coaching, but classes in general. And thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
Oh my God. Thank you. Yeah, I always try and keep them short and then I get sucked into the conversation. So thank you for spending over an hour with me. I'm so grateful for your time and your amazing stories. I love this so much. Yeah, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I will share this everywhere because I think some great things were said.
Oh, thank you so much. I was checking. I hope the weather's nice now that I'm awake.
I mean, it is sunny downtown. Maybe it's sunny in your neck of the woods. Who knows? Okay.
I hope so.
Yes, enjoy the day. Oh, I do what I can.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Okay. Thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. And yeah, have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Bye, Robyn.
Bye.